Hi everyone, this is Mohit Chatlani from TeslaBerry, your learning, aptitude, and IQ companion. In this episode of the Learning Podcast, we'll be learning about personal finance. We have Anuj Suneja with us, who is an applied psychology graduate from DU and holds an MBA from IIM Visakhapatnam. He has been an avid trader and investor for 5 years now. Recently, he also launched his book, Casual Finance, a millennial's guide to personal finance, which is available on all the major e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Kindle, and Flipkart. Hi Anuj, I welcome you to the podcast and I congratulate you on the new book.
Thanks a lot, Mohit. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for getting me featured into the one of your blogs on your website. So it's been a great experience till now. Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to the topic of personal finance, I think the majority of people who are earning money are still not investing much. Why do you think it is important to earn and invest instead of simply earning?
So it's a great question, Mohit, and no
Mhm.
one till now has been successful in answering the question 100% in a sure manner. But I would like to give it a take. I personally feel that most of the people in India are living paycheck to paycheck. Like, for example, people who have graduated with you.
Mhm.
Also, I just live, say they are earning 5 lakhs a year, which comes out to be about say 40,000 a month.
Mhm.
Every all the money from that goes into rents, paying for other utilities, food, and other things. So basically, they are living paycheck to paycheck. And when there is no surplus income, there is no way a person can invest. So that is one
Mhm.
reason. And if people have the money to invest, they think that it is a riskier bet to take. But what they're not trying to understand is inflation is eating up their money. So to fight inflation, they will have to invest. That is one point. So yeah, to answer your question, there are two things. One, they are living from paycheck to paycheck. Other, it is they think it as a risky bet. So to start with, I'll say that people can probably go for fixed deposits or other bonds or something like that, which
Mhm.
offer fixed income and is also beating inflation in some way or the other.
Yeah. So, this comes my second question, that how can one start with his investing journey?
So for starting the investing journey, the first thing to do is to analyze your goals. So basically, what we are trying to do here is analyzing and putting on paper what we are trying to achieve, what our end goal is, what our long term goal is, what our short term goal is, what our medium term goal is. And
Mhm.
money has to be divided in a similar fashion. So if for short term, I think most of the money should be put in debt. And for debt, there is no risk. Hence, there is no
Mhm.
analysis that is required. You just need to see the returns that a particular bond or FD or say NCD is offering. And you
Mhm.
can just go ahead and invest in it because there is a guarantee that the company or the government would be returning your money.
Mhm.
For equity, it becomes a little tricky. People are saying that go for virtual trading platforms, but I don't personally prefer virtual trading platforms, as I was telling you earlier this morning while we were having a chat.
Yeah.
So for what virtual trading does is it gives you immense amount of money. Say it'll give you, for paper trading, it'll give you $1 crore,
Mhm.
and you can just put in money. Say मैंने 3,000 Reliance खरीद लिया, 3,000 Infosys खरीद लिया,
Mhm.
and all my money is spent on 5-7 shares, which is not the
Mhm.
way to go. And I know that I would not be having $1 crore. And
Yes.
even if I'm getting, say, a 2 lakh return on it in a week, which is not a good return for a crore of rupees, and it
Mhm.
can be done by pure fluke. I don't think that kind of experience is giving any value to the customer. So I am
Okay.
personally against virtual trading. So
Mhm.
what I would recommend is that people should invest small amount of money in
Yep.
the specific stocks that they want. Say I want to buy Reliance, 2000
Mhm.
ka stock hai. If I buy one stock, I know that $2,000 is on stake. I would go and read about the company. I would
Mhm.
analyze the company's stocks. Even if I'm putting $100 on, say, I'll go and buy $220 ka ITC. Then
Mhm.
also I have some exposure in the market. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm putting
Mhm.
my money where my mouth is, and from that, the learning that
Mhm.
comes in, the learning curve grows exponentially from there.
Yeah.
And
So,
the overall learning that you'll have from there would be enormous. That's what goes for equity. There are other things. Yeah, you were saying something.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned that we can also go for this ETF that we have. So, it is like a mutual fund, but you can check the value of it in real time.
Yeah. I was coming to mutual funds.
Mhm.
So there are two types of investing per se. And when it comes to mutual funds are still a little easier than equity, I'll say. It's a pretty simple and straightforward game. What you are saying is a passive kind of a mutual fund, and what others are an active kind of a mutual fund. So for an active mutual fund, the fund manager has to pick up stocks. He has to put some brain in analyzing what kind of stocks he is picking up, what kind of ratios he is doing in. So for that, people have to analyze the returns. They have to analyze the fund manager. They have to analyze the company performance. Even though historical performance does not give any indication of how the future is going to be, but still that is the basic sanity check that people should do. So that's for the active fund part. Coming to the ETFs part that you were speaking about, it is basically a passive fund. So basically, say an ETF that is tracking Nifty, and I put 17,000 bucks in it. What it will do is it will just buy me stocks in that particular ratio in which the index is having it.
Okay.
So it is basically a mimicking game of the ETF of the index.
Yeah.
So that's what an ETF is. So historically, if we see, ETFs have outperformed actively managed funds, and that's what I would also prefer. But given the overheating of all the markets, and particularly the index, Nifty and Sensex, the indices have been managed beautifully by FIIs and DIIs. I don't recommend entering at this point, even though it might go to 18,000, 19,000 levels by the year end. But I'm not comfortable at these kind of valuations. So that's how it is. And the last part of the investing journey is entering the uncharted territory in which no one has any experience. That is like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and Ethereum and things like that. So for that, what we can do is we can invest minuscule amounts of our portfolio. Say I am having a portfolio of say 10 lakhs. I just invest 10,000 bucks in Bitcoin. I had bought it at say around 25,000-30,000 levels 2 months back when I was writing the book. It was added towards the end. I've actually mentioned Bitcoin as a specific asset class just after gold, because it kind of mimics gold in some qualities. So what I did, I invested just 10,000 bucks, which has become 20,000. So it is doubled. So it can go to say 4 times, 10 times, and it can even half. So not a major exposure should be taken in these kind of asset classes. So in the end, it's all about learning, and learning happens when you put your money out there in the market. It is not going to happen with books or anything else.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question, that how technology has made investing easy, especially in this COVID era.
So technology advancement has played a major role in the access part of it. So the ease of access has gone up significantly in the past few years, especially after Zerodha came in. And it was last year that Zerodha and discount brokerage companies have picked up. Like the tipping point was last year, because people had money with them, people had time with them. Even though there were salary cuts, but people came back home, so they were saving a lot in terms of rent and food spend that they were doing. So people had money on their hand, they had time on their hand, and that all built up with the ease of access that Zerodha was providing with the KYC norms, all online KYC. That has significantly improved the overall stock scenario in India. Because last year, if we see, Zerodha opened 36 lakhs account in just a matter of 4 or 5 months, and overall 60 lakh accounts were opened. So that is pretty much about it. And Also, technology has also helped us in terms of gaining knowledge, because I'll say every Tom, Dick, and Harry has started YouTube channels and are giving calls
Yeah.
on what to buy, what to sell. Most of it is crap. There are only a few channels, I'll say a
Yeah.
handful, 5 or 6, who are giving real knowledge. Others are just like they are full of crap. In a
So do you think that this? Yeah. So I was saying that, do you think that this web series has that Harshad Mehta that has
so
had an effect?
that also has played a lot of mind games with people.
Yeah.
So, but it's not that easy. That like making money in a bull market is very easy, but once it goes sideways and it goes downwards,
Yeah.
people start to panic and start selling. So I'll tell you a recent example. Yesterday, what happened is, so it's a very simple, straightforward strategy in options. It's called a straddle, option straddle.
Okay.
So what people do is they sell put and call at the same price for an index. Now, what happened in Bank Nifty, a particular straddle of 37,000 or something like that, 37,100, was trading at $380 at 925.58, and the next second it shot up to 1961.
Oh my.
And the kind of money people lost in there, it was, mind you, it is a 6 times gain or a 6 times loss, whatever kind of bet you have taken. And there is a YouTube channel who said that they've gained 38 crores in 1 second.
Okay.
Now that is not a gain of that person, that is a loss of a lot of other people, because in the end it is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And people have ended up in massive losses. So as Warren Buffett says, these are weapons of mass destruction. Like derivatives are weapons of mass destruction. So you can't do it without proper knowledge and giving it proper time. It is not a part-time job.
Yes.
So that's the downside of technology. But otherwise, from spreading knowledge perspective, technology has done a lot in the last 1 year.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, like, how your experience has been with this, because you have quite an experience now. So, like, do you want to share any particular experience that, with all?
So I have actually stopped trading these days. Like, not exactly stopped, but I've shifted my long-term things to like long-term goals towards investing and swing trading and not doing intraday these days, because the kind of margins that we are getting in terms of derivatives, especially, have gone down significantly, because it is at the end it is an arbitrage. And if a lot of people know the same strategy, like the derivative strategy that I was talking about, if say 100,000 people do that, it is pointless to do that.
Okay.
Like, I'll make profit only if say 1,000 people, 2,000, 5,000 people are doing it, because that is the same amount of pie that is getting divided.
Okay.
Right? And if 100,000 people are doing it, my profit should be cut down significantly. So I don't think it is a market to be traded right now. I think like I have booked most of my profits, and I'm sitting on some shares which I think are undervalued. So there is a lot of sector rotation that is happening these days. Like the index is going up significantly and going up consistently. It has come from 7,600 to 17,200, 400, whatever it is trading these days. So it has come down 10,000 points. But there are specific sectors. So for that matter, Bank Nifty, banking as a sector was trading at 15% low until last week, like 15% lower from its all-time high. And from the 50-week high as well. So you have to identify sectors specifically, and in those sectors also you have to identify stocks that have value but are not being valued by the industry right now. So that's kind of summarizes what I'm doing and my experience in the past 1 year. Like I've advised a lot of people, but last year I made significant losses during the crash. So I did not have the money to put it in again. So I was a little late to the market. That has happened with most of the people who were in the market before COVID. And post the COVID crash, a lot of new people have come in.
Yeah.
So most of the money that is in the market is of those people.
Yeah.
So
okay. So, Anuj, so my next question is that what's your POV on the emerging cryptocurrencies like BTC, Ethereum that use decentralized technology? So, and also is it a safe bet to invest in these right now?
Yeah. So I'll answer the question in two parts, like the two parts you've questioned it. So point of view, fundamentally, it is a solid thing, I'll say, and it is here to
Yeah.
stay. Because no matter what has happened in the past 12, 13 years since when Bitcoin came in, just after the 2009 Lehman Brothers collapse. So it has been there, and it has been there like a rock solid thing, and the valuations have kept going up, even though there have been manipulations in some ways by bigger operators. But overall, even after seeing crashes, it is trading at a good level. So fundamentally, it is a great thing, and I think it's a good investment. But the problem here are the valuations right now. You don't know how to value a currency, because there is a difference between money and currency. I've explained it in my book, so people who are interested can probably go up and read. And that's where I mentioned Bitcoin as well, just after gold. So I see it as gold, but there is no intrinsic value to it right now. The intrinsic value would depend on the use cases of it. And for investing it right now, that is the second part of your question. I think people have to find their own sweet spot, and that will depend on kind of horizons that people are playing in and what their goals are. So that's on the investment point of view. Plus, a lot of other things are also into play right now in the valuations perspective. That is the regulations that are coming up.
Yeah.
Like some countries would legalize the use of Bitcoin, and some institutions for that matter have also come into the game. So is it a safe bet right now? I'll say yes and a no. Yes, because there are a lot of institutions who are coming in, and no, because these institutions have the money power and the muscle power to manipulate anything and everything. So even though it is because it is non-regulated, it becomes a little dangerous. So for newbies, I'll just say put in a minuscule amount, say $1,000, $2,000. That's just for the learning. And once you've learned everything about it, you can probably up your game. So that would be my 2 cents on crypto.
Okay. Yeah. So that's great. So now coming to your book. So why should I buy this book, Casual Finance, and what extra edge does it offer over the others? There are lots of resources that are available on the internet. So why should I, buy your book?
Why should you buy it? I think you would have the answer by now because you've already bought it. For the audience, I'll say it is more of an handbook kind of a thing, or it's basically a guide that puts everything in place and puts everything into perspective. It has all your needs taken care at one place. So it is basically a starting point for your financial life. It's a holy grail for newbies, because there is no internet site or content on the internet that is reliable and is offering everything at the same point. And another point of value that I am offering is that it will give you a taste of everything, and it is full of anecdotes of myself, anecdotes of my relatives, because I've been in the market for like 5.5 years now, and my dad has been in the market for more than 35 years now. So there are a lot of ups and downs that I've seen, and the personal experiences are what will stick by with you as learnings, and that is what the differential point that I have from the others. So that's the selling point that I'm putting in.
Yeah. So even I think that the personal experience is more important than any resource that is available.
Yeah, exactly. So it is basically the learning part. Like a simple thing would be if you read something, it will stick by you for a week or so, and post that once you are in the market, you'll forget a lot of things. But if I put an anecdote, like Panchatantra ki kahani sabko yaad rehti hai, right? Because I've lost money and I've put it on paper, on record, that I've lost money doing this. So that is not a good thing to do, probably. And maybe a lot of other people have also tried. So you should not be trying this, because as Chanakya says, you don't have enough time in your life to make all the mistakes. You need to learn from others, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my closing remark for my book.
Yeah. So I hope that everyone will go to the any website and Amazon, Flipkart. It is available everywhere, and they will go and they will buy the book. So
yeah, I also hope so.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah. So with this, I think it's time. I would like to thank you for taking out time to share your views, and I would like to thank everyone for listening. Do you want to say do you want to conclude?
Thanks a lot, Mohit.
Yeah.
No, you concluded already. So I would just like to thank you for providing me the platform. And it's been a great experience, like writing for the blog and coming here and sharing my views. So it's a first of a kind experience that I'm having right now. So I would just like to thank you for this. Thanks a lot, Mohit.
Yeah. So I hope you get more opportunities like this to present your views to a bigger audience.
Yeah. Looking forward for the same.
Yeah. So with this, I would just like to say that please like, share, and subscribe. Review the podcast from wherever you are listening. It will help the podcast to grow and reach more people. And this is it. We'll see you in the next episode of the Tesla Berry podcast. Thank you.